Hello and welcome to episode 127 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the show. This is the show of shows. Forget what you've heard about other shows that may claim to be the show of shows. This show is not only the show of shows, but it is also the king of beers, just in case you were wondering. My name is GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree, linktree.com/GnittWitt. GnittWitt. I am on Twitch. I am on Threads. I am on Instagram. I am on YouTube, Blue Sky, and you can find this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, all of that good stuff. I wonder if, and I haven't looked into this, I imagine the people that include like the iHeartRadio like thing in their ad spiel are being paid by iHeartRadio, because I know friends and family that listen to podcasts and all that stuff, and a lot of them are big like Apple Podcast people and maybe some Spotify users, what have you. I just don't hear a lot of people walking around being like, yes, iHeartRadio, that's where I go for all my favorite podcast content. I just don't know those people. Those people probably exist. I also wonder, speaking of radio, as someone who went to school for radio broadcasting and ended up doing this, living, if you can't tell, if you watch the video version of the show, you can just see me living the lap of luxury over here. As someone who went to radio school, I do wonder, how do people still listen to the radio, first of all? And two, what are they using to listen to the radio? I know there are such things as like AM, FM, radios and all that stuff. But like, there are a lot of apps, right? You can listen to the radio on your phone through, various radio podcasting or usually it's a combination, because I can't imagine apps that just purely focus on radio are too popular these days. But what I'm saying is, are you listening to the radio in general? One, are you listening to the radio? Two, do you drive? Because I think that is a big influence on whether you listen to the radio or not. Or do you work in like a mechanic shop? Are you just like constantly rubbing grease from your hands on a dirty rag while you listen to fucking like classic rock with fucking Lynyrd Skynyrd or whatever you're doing? Anyways, I thought Beats One's pretty cool. Apple Music Beats One is cool if you want radio stations there. I think that's kind of cool. I know Run the Jewels was doing a radio show for the longest time. I don't think they still are. WRTJ. It was neat. It was cool. I like Run the Jewels, so they could fucking shit out a turd sandwich and I'd still probably eat it. But long story short, radio. But we're not here to talk about the radio. At least, God, I hope not. Last thing I want to do is sit around talking about the radio for 90 minutes. And the reason why I don't want to do that is because there is so much news to get to today. I don't know how we're going to do it. You would think like, January, slow month, whatever. But what some companies, use as a slow month, other companies use to really ramp up a lot of rumors, speculation, news, a little bit of everything in between. So what I have for you today is a smorgasbord of news. We're going to kick things off talking about Nintendo. Do not always talk about Nintendo on this podcast, but in fairness, Nintendo has had a few quiet, slow years since I've been doing this podcast anyway, but I think that is going to change rather dramatically, and it could happen sooner rather than later. Insiders are claiming that Nintendo's next console reveal, most likely the Switch 2, is set for January 16th. That is tomorrow, the day after I record this podcast. So this might be the last, time I get to, talk about all the speculations and things that I have to say about a potential Switch console or a potential, successor to the Switch. But that's kind of what we're dealing with. Is there's every chance that tomorrow, January 16th, the Nintendo just reveals the Switch 2. Usually there are people there for hands-on as part of any presentation if there is hardware. And Nintendo could do that as well or they could invite people at a later date to actually go and try this stuff, right? If it's a scenario where, because what I'm thinking, the way I think this is probably going to go is Nintendo. We don't see a lot of live press conferences these days unless you're in the video game industry space, unless you're, fucking Jeff Keighley or something. And that's fine. But what I think will most likely happen if this ends up being true is they will probably hit play on a video and put it on YouTube, and then that'll be that. And then they'll have their, live event, get to touch and feel and do all this stuff, perhaps at a later date. Now you might be thinking, well, GnittWitt, why tomorrow? Why is this all of a sudden feeling so sudden? It's because there have actually been a lot of leaks surrounding the Nintendo Switch 2, leading up to this, kind of insider claim that the whole thing's going to happen January 16th. So we're going to kind of cover this as best we can, but there were Nintendo Switch 2 accessories that were listed in GameStop that had yet to be that were accessories that were for a console that was unannounced. So we're already starting to see internal listings for Switch accessories for a console that hasn't been announced, right? So we can start to think, if people are starting to make accessories and things like that for the Switch 2, the Switch 2 is probably right around the corner. Now, the alleged listings were for micro SD cards. So these are micro SD express cards. So these cards are significantly faster than the ones that are supported by the current Switch console, which means if you have old SD cards laying around, micro SD cards laying around, those will probably work in some way, shape, or form on the Nintendo Switch 2. But if you are looking for something that is significantly faster, you're going to want to go with the new micro SD cards. And that's what seems to be available in the GameStop, retail items listing here. The Switch 2 could theoretically support as much as 128 terabytes of storage space with the micro SD cards. I imagine that you're going to be paying a whole lot of money for a 128 terabyte SD card, but the current listings at GameStop were for 256 and 512 gigabytes, respectively. There were also tempered glass screen protectors, a case, a charger were also listed as part of this leak as well. Speaking of leaks, there was a leaker who posted a 360-degree render of the new Nintendo console. They just posted a picture of what they think, or what is reportedly what the console is going to look like. It is going to be an 8.4-inch screen. It's still going to have the controllers docked on the side. That is going to be 1.4 inches larger than the Nintendo Switch OLED, for those keeping score at home. The system will also reportedly feature a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, as well as a USB-C port on the top. This will allow the system to be charged in tabletop mode, because the current Switch has a kickstand at the bottom and the USB switch is at the bottom, so you can't charge it at the same time. I don't know if that means they're going to have USB-C ports on the top and bottom for docking purposes, because when you put the Switch in the dock, the current Switch in the dock, you're connecting it to that USB-C port that's at the bottom that's plugged in via power, and that's where your HDMI cable goes into for the TV and all of that stuff. So I don't know if they're going to hit us with a double whammy of USB-C, but it seems like, at least, if you're playing tabletop mode, kickstand out sort of thing, you will be able to charge the Switch at the same time. What was the other thing that was leaking? Oh, yes. Games. Let's talk games. There were a whole bunch of games, all these rumors and leaks and stuff didn't all happen at the same time. I'm just kind of condensing all of this down now into kind of what has been leaked, because if they really do announce it, tomorrow or whatever, there's no point talking about the leaks. We'll just talk about what there was. So here's kind of what smoke on the street is for the Nintendo Switch 2. So there's also some Switch 2 game leaks. I'm just pulling up the details here for that stuff. A lot of known quantities as it pertains to third-party games, though there are some surprises here. Nintendo Switch 2 is reportedly getting 2 major Xbox games, including Halo. Potential for the Master Chief Collection to be coming to Nintendo Switch 2, as well as PlayStation 5. And on top of that, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, that is last year's game, reportedly also coming to both Nintendo Switch 2 and PS5. This is according to Nate the Hate, a podcaster with a history of correctly reporting on unreleased video games. Both games are planned for the system as Microsoft plans to heavily support Nintendo Switch 2. Does this mean that Game Pass makes it onto Switch 2? Hard to say, but they at least want to get, a lot of games out the door for Nintendo Switch 2. This also follows with the idea that, Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded all already on, PlayStation as well as on Switch in some way, shape, or form. So I think this makes sense. They've already confirmed that Doom the Dark Ages is coming to Xbox Series X and S, PC, and PS5. There's a PS5 version of Indiana Jones, and there will be a PS5 version of The Outer Worlds 2. Does this mean that all of these Xbox games that are coming to PS5 or already on PS5 are going to make their way to Nintendo Switch? It's really hard to say, but, the idea of like, hey, you can play Halo on your Nintendo console is pretty fucking crazy. It's just as crazy as being able to play it on the PS5. However, if you haven't been living under a rock for the last period of time, you know that Microsoft is more and more and more every day committing to being a third-party publisher, putting their games on a variety of platforms, including direct competitors like PlayStation. So this shouldn't be too surprising. Square Enix also looking to, put more of its games on both Xbox and Nintendo Switch. There are reportedly Final Fantasy titles coming to Nintendo Switch. They're talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake will be coming to Xbox in 2025. Rebirth will be coming to Xbox in 2026. Both of those titles are also being released for Nintendo Switch 2. So keep all that in mind. Assassin's Creed and Metal Gear Solid are also tipped for Nintendo Switch 2 releases. Several third-party games in development for Switch 2 have seemingly been revealed. We just talked about Final Fantasy VII. We're talking Assassin's Creed Mirage. That seems to be the game. Coming to Switch 2 is Assassin's Creed Mirage, and then the unreleased Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta game also coming to Switch. Now, a lot of these Switch also happened during CES, that is the Consumer Electronics Expo Showcase, whatever they call it. And Nintendo actually and a lot of those were during CES, so a lot of it was like accessories and hardware related and 3D renders and all that stuff. Nintendo actually went on to respond to these leaks, such as like the render of the of what the Switch console looks like. And they said these images and videos are not official. That's all they had to say, is the images shown by accessory makers and third-party companies and stuff like that at CES in Las Vegas last week, and the week, I think it's 2 weeks, a week and a half. Anyways, Nintendo said that, hey, that ain't us. That ain't us. That doesn't work for me, brother. And then is there any other thing? And then I think on top of that, on top of everything else, Microsoft is going to be having a developer direct. That's happening January 23rd. Do I expect them to talk about Nintendo Switch console stuff during this? Maybe, maybe not. Doom the Dark Ages is slated to be presented at that Xbox Developer Direct conference. And I mean, when they did Indiana Jones, they did not shy away from, hey, this game is going to come to other platforms. I don't know how I feel about the idea of it being called a Xbox Developer Direct and then talking so much about third-party releases, but at the end of the day, like this is the way Microsoft is going to do things, right? I can't sit here and be like, oh man, I can't believe they're going to announce the game that I want to play and I get the chance to play on a console that I don't have, that other people get the chance to play. Like, who fucking cares? If you can play, fucking Doom the Dark Ages on PS5, more people should get a chance to play that game, assuming that game is good. But I just don't know if more of the Switch, stuff that we're hearing about now will be presented during the developer direct. In theory, they're going to talk about the Nintendo Switch tomorrow. If they do, in theory, Microsoft will be able to respond however they want to, whether it be showing games that are going to focus primarily just on Xbox and PC, focus on games that are going to be more multi-platform. It's really hard to say, but that's kind of the final thing attached to all this is like there is a developer direct taking place by Xbox Thursday, January 23rd. What does this all mean? It means that we are probably pretty close to a Nintendo Switch announcement. Whether it does happen tomorrow or it happens in a week, I don't know. I don't think that Nintendo needs to give people a lot of notice. In fact, I don't think Nintendo needs to give anyone any notice, right? Unless you're somebody who would have liked to have sat there and watched it when it happened out of a fear of missing out, you know, like the people who watch the live streams of, you know, the Game Awards right when it happens, or, you know, Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, whatever. Like, I get it, a fear of missing out. You want to be first one on the blog to be like, oh my God, did you watch the Switch video? I already watched it. I'm so much faster at watching videos than you. I don't think that necessarily matters in the grand scheme of things. I don't think Nintendo cares. My only hope is that will Nintendo have enough supply to meet demands this time around compared to what we saw with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S, and what we saw with the original Nintendo Switch launch, right? Scalpers are going to scalp. That's what they do. If you're wondering how scalpers, you know, do it these days, a lot of it is automated. A lot of it is automated through, you know, computer programs and bots and things like that. So, and in some cases, like this bot stuff is something that even regular customers and regular consumer folks could get into if they wanted to. But at the end of the day, I just want to wake up, roll out of bed, put the Switch 2 in my Nintendo cart, and put the Switch 2 in my Amazon shopping cart, and then just away I go. Like, I'll tell you right now, I'm trying to stack some money aside. I'm trying to get me a Switch 2 day one. Like, they haven't even announced it, and I already know that I want a Switch 2 day one. Unless there's something horrible about this thing that makes it so unappealing, if the price is fucked or whatever the case may be, which, in fairness, I live in Canada. The price is almost certainly going to be fucked, but how fucked it will be, we'll have to decide. You know, once they've announced it. But like, I'm telling you right now, like, I want a Nintendo Switch 2. I want to be there day one, and it's not necessarily from a fear of missing out. It's because I have not played a Nintendo console in some time. I sold my Switch because I wasn't playing a lot of it. I wasn't catching up on all the games. It just was sitting there collecting dust. However, this will give me a great excuse to go back to games, assuming that it supports backwards compatibility. And the idea of something that's a little more dynamic so that I could play potentially third-party games on it is not the worst idea. Do I think I'm going to play a lot of third-party games on my Nintendo Switch? Absolutely not. Halo, the Master Chief Collection is not, Nintendo Switch 2, in theory, is not the place I want to go to play Halo, the Master Chief Collection. I want to play that on my PC, or if I had an Xbox, or if I had a PlayStation, that's probably where I'd play it, assuming that, you know, Master Chief comes to PlayStation. But this is all a long-winded way of saying the Switch 2 is coming, y'all. So get ready. You know, are we gonna see new Mario games? Are we gonna see new Zelda games? Probably not, because they just put out a Zelda game the last 2 years. Are we going to see a new Mario Kart game, new Smash Brothers, Donkey Kong? Like, what is, you know, because Nintendo almost certainly has to have at least one or two main big franchises well represented with the Switch 2 reveal, though I'm sure they would love to be able to lean on third-party support if they could. You know, like, gosh, do they show Xbox stuff during the reveal or during the marketing, like, leading up to this? Do they actually, like, could you imagine they get fucking Phil Spencer on stage to be like, Master Chief, y'all? I don't know, maybe, but we know that, you know, Nintendo is a company kind of like Disney, where the IP that they own is some of the most, like, world-renowned and magical, legendary, you know, properties and franchises in all of gaming. You do not have to be a Nintendo fan to know the Zelda, the Donkey Kong, the Pokemon, the Luigi, and I'm not talking about the Luigi that shot that CEO. I'm talking about Mario and Luigi, right? Where, you know, there's a lot of franchises there that are legendary and kind of, in a Disney-esque fashion, that should and can be well represented in even a Switch 2 reveal. Now, obviously, they're not going to blow their load entirely. They're not going to be like, you get a Mario Tennis and a Mario Kart and a Mario Golf and a Mario this and a Mario that and a Mario Party and a Super Mario 3D game and a Super Mario 2D game. Like, I don't think they're going to go that crazy. I think we'll get like 1 or 2 maximum. But I'm assuming that Mario will be represented in some way, shape, or form when the Switch 2 reveal happens. It just is going to be up to Nintendo to decide if it's actually going to happen January 16th. Now, I will let you know right here, right now, that as we record this podcast, I am desperately scraping any and all social media to see if an update happens, if a reveal or announcement date is real or not. As of right now, we don't have any new confirmations at the moment. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I got a hell of a lot more news to talk about. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the podcast. You wanted more, you got more. Now, let's kind of go back to what we were talking about originally with Microsoft's Developer Direct live stream. Now, they've already announced the 3 of the 4 games that are going to be there. So it is going to be Doom the Dark Order. It is going to be South of Midnight. It's going to be Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and a mystery game. They also did this last time. They did a develop, or they've done this in the past. I don't know if it was directly the last time they did it or not. But there is a mystery game in the 4. If you look at the images provided by Microsoft, and well, I think we have an idea of what it is going to be. They say our sources indicate, this is from Windows Central reporting on this, and has then been kind of distributed by Video Games Chronicles. As always, shout out to Video Games Chronicles. Windows Central says our sources indicate that this is a new entry in a legendary Japanese IP, which has decades of history and should make a lot of fans happy. Indeed, Microsoft has won some strong support from the region lately from studios like Square Enix for Final Fantasy, Hoyoverse for Genshin Impact, and Sega Atlas for Persona, and we suspect this new game will help further that trend. So the thing is that these games are all published by, at the very least, published by Microsoft. I don't know if Sandfall Interactive is owned by Microsoft or not. I should have looked that up. Sandfall Interactive are the ones that are doing Claire Obscure 33. I don't believe these guys are owned by Microsoft. Let me see if I can pull that up. It doesn't show. It doesn't. So I don't think, maybe there's a chance that maybe not all of these games, compulsion games are owned by Microsoft. So maybe Sandfall Interactive isn't. So that means there's a chance that if Sandfall Interactive is a company that is not owned by Microsoft the way that Compulsion Games and id Studios, the makers of Doom the Dark Ages, are, there's a chance that maybe this Developer Direct is not going to feature, games directly made by Microsoft, but potentially published by Microsoft. We'll see. There's a very good chance that I'm wrong in all of this, but there are 3 games, Doom the Dark Ages, South of Midnight, and Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and Doom the Dark... Sorry, I already said Doom the Dark Ages. And the 4th game is supposed to be some sort of legendary Japanese video game, but we won't find out until January 23rd. So we kind of already talked about this, but just wanted to reiterate that Microsoft is planning on putting more of their video games out on PlayStation, including Gears of War, which will reportedly come to PS5 this year. Let's see here. On Friday, it's claimed by a noted insider that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and Halo the Master Chief Collection are both planned for release on Sony's consoles as part of Microsoft's new strategy for releasing more games on rival platforms. Now, a new report from Video Games Chronicles, brought to you by Windows Central, corroborates these claims with its own sources and reports that further franchises are also being planned for PS5 by Xbox in 2025. according to the publication Ninja Theory's Hellblade 2, strategy title Age of Mythology, and potentially Gears of War 1 Ultimate Edition are all slated for release on PlayStation 5 this year. Now, Microsoft Gaming CEO recently reiterated that Xbox won't rule out any first-party Xbox games potentially coming to rival platforms, such as the PlayStation and Nintendo consoles in the future, following the first wave of ports that included Sea of Thieves, Hi-Fi Rush, Grounded, and more. Speaking to Bloomberg in November, Phil Spencer reportedly said he was pleased with the results of the first wave of multi-platform releases and that Microsoft would bring more titles to other platforms. Please keep in mind that this does not count stuff like Call of Duty and Minecraft, right? And they already confirmed Indiana Jones, and they already confirmed Doom the Dark Ages, right? Rare Sea of Thieves was PS5's most downloaded game in May in both US and Europe. My only hope, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, my only hope, one of my favorite Xbox games, probably one of my favorite Xbox games of all time, is Forza Horizon 4 or 5. I like both, right? Though they just recently pulled 4 from store shelves, digital storefronts, because the car licenses had expired. I don't know what the car license agreement is with Forza Horizon 5, but I would love to see Forza Horizon 5 make its way to PlayStation. I think it is one of the best open world racing games out there today, if not the best open world racing game out there today. And I would love to see PlayStation fans and PlayStation 5 owners get the chance to play such a phenomenal game. But the other thing is that I think the Master Chief Collection, I know it was a rough game at launch. There were a lot of bugs, a lot of problems with it. But Master Chief Collection is one of the best deals you can get in all of gaming, considering you get Halo Reach, Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 4, and Halo 3 ODST in one collection. That is a lot of first-person shooting story modes in one collection. I think that is a tremendous deal. And on top of that, you get the multiplayer if you are a multiplayer fan. So I think there's a lot to look forward to from Xbox on PlayStation 5 this year. And I know some people are going to be cynical. I know some people are going to be like, oh, fucking, I want my console exclusives. I want a reason to buy and play my Xbox. And I'm going to continuously reiterate this. I think the reason you buy and play an Xbox these days is for Game Pass. If you do not want to, pay individually for Gears of War or Microsoft Flight Simulator or Sea of Thieves or Pentiment or, Doom the Dark Ages or Indiana Jones or Call of Duty or whatever, you don't have to. You don't have to. If you want to buy a PS5 and then individually buy The Last of Us, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War, Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2, Sea of Thieves, all that stuff, more power to you. More power to you, right? But I just think this idea that these games have to be exclusive, especially in a world where these exclusives are not selling people on buying Xbox consoles in the first place, you gotta do something. And I think everybody wins in this scenario. If Microsoft's happy with the sales of things like Sea of Thieves on PS5, you can't stop this from happening, right? You can be grumpy, you can complain, you can be whatever. To be honest, I think it's an incredibly exciting time. I got friends and family who are PS5 owners, and I'm very excited to see what attracts them when it comes to Xbox's offerings when more and more of those games start to come to PS5 starting this year. Now, this is a news story that when it first dropped, it dropped right after the podcast came out, and I thought to myself, God damn it, this would have been the top of the news story for the podcast for the week that I recorded, and then everything else happened, and now it is like much lower on the list. So no offense to everybody involved, but this news story is now not nearly as important as stuff like the Switch 2. So if you can blame me for putting it here after the first break, I don't know what to tell you. Ubisoft has delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows again to, quote, incorporate player feedback. The next Assassin's Creed game has slipped again to fully deliver on the potential of the game. It was originally supposed to come out in November of last year, that it was originally supposed to come out in February of this year, and now it'll be released on March 20th. This is what Ubisoft had to say about the additional development time needed. would allow it to better incorporate the player feedback gathered over the past 3 months to help create the best conditions for launch by continuing to engage closely with the increasingly positive Assassin's Creed community. Now, previously, Ubisoft had said it was confident a second delay would not be necessary. In the original postponement, the company announced it was departing from its traditional season pass model, canceling early access to the title, and granting players who pre-ordered the game its first expansion for free. Yves Guillemot, co-founder and CEO of Ubisoft, said, "We are all behind our team's efforts to create the most ambitious Assassin's Creed opus of the franchise and made the decision to provide an extra month of development to Shadows in order to better incorporate the player feedback gathered over the past 3 months. That will enable us to fully deliver on the potential of the game and finish the year on a strong note." Now, the delay comes alongside news that Ubisoft has appointed advisors to review various transformational, strategic, and capitalistic options for the business following a year in which its market value has more than halved. Following Assassin's Creed Shadows' first delay and disappointing launch performance of Star Wars Outlaws, Ubisoft's share price dropped to its lowest point in nearly 11 years. Then, last month, its online shooter X-Defiant was discontinued and 3 studios were closed. Now, according to reports, this has led to the controlling Guillemot family to explore a potential deal that could take the company private. Speaking in a web call on Thursday, Yves Guillemot declined to comment on the reports. I just like saying Yves Guillemot. In Thursday's announcement, Ubisoft said the company would drive significant cost reductions exceeding 200 million euros annually, but it did not specify on how it would do it. Guillemot said, "We have taken decisive steps to reshape the group in order to deliver best-in-class player experiences, enhance operational efficiency, and maximize value creation. We also recently appointed leading advisors and are actively exploring various strategic and capitalistic options to unlock the full value potential of our assets. We are convinced that there are several potential paths to generate value from Ubisoft's assets and franchises." Where do we begin? Where do we begin with everything that we just heard? We'll start here. I don't know how video games are made. Put my hand up and I say I don't know how video games are made. I just don't. I will tell you this. I think if you are trying to incorporate player feedback gathered over the past 3 months, you are going to need more than 1 month to incorporate that feedback. The game was originally supposed to come out in February. Now it's coming out in March. You cannot sit here and tell me that the player feedback can be incorporated over that short of a period of time. Unless this player feedback is so small and so minuscule that they're thinking, oh, well, let's try to have the cleanest launch possible and it's just bugs. If it's just bugs, that's one thing. But if it's like, hey, I don't like the way the combat is, or I don't like the graphics, or I think this quest is broken, or this open world element is bad, like, they obviously don't get into what that player feedback is, and they probably shouldn't. If they want to have a surprising launch for Assassin's Creed Shadows, but like, what possibly could they be incorporating from the player feedback that would take only a month to implement? I have my doubts. And speaking of what they said with the increasingly positive Assassin's Creed community, I spent a lot of time online. I am terminally online, and I get it. However, I'm just going to say this. Even if it is a incredibly vocal minority group of people, I have never seen an Assassin's Creed game in development during its development cycle in my life that more people want to see fail than ever before. I don't know what actually, I have some idea. I shouldn't say I'm completely ignorant to this, but the amount of people with axes to grind when it comes to Ubisoft as a company, Assassin's Creed as a franchise, is more prominent than I have ever seen in my entire life, both as someone who plays video games and as someone who's tried to cover the games industry and create content around video games. I've never seen it before. Like Assassin's Creed Mirage seemed like kind of a a fluffy kind of flop. Like it just didn't seem like people didn't seem to care. They kind of shrugged their shoulders at the idea of Assassin's Creed Mirage. And I don't even think Assassin's Creed Valhalla is that bad. I mean, I put almost 100 hours into that game. Yeah, the story is way too long, and a lot of their focus on mythology, surrounding Norse mythology, instead of focusing on real historical elements, or as close to real historical elements as Assassin's Creed is going to get, is pretty dumb. Like Odin sucks in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but the part where you were running around doing the Assassin's Creed / Viking stuff was fun. I can't complain. So, are people mad about Ubisoft because of XDefiant? Are people mad at Ubisoft because of Skull and Bones? Are people mad that they keep trying to talk about fucking Beyond Good and Evil 2? Are people mad that the crew sucks? Like are people mad that Ubisoft is a rotten, toxic company with a piss poor leadership that have allowed abuse and mistreatment of its employees? Like what is the, I'd have to be fucking Jay Leno, man on the street, asking people, oh, so what do you think about Ubisoft? Is it the part where they seem like, abusive pieces of shit, or is it the part where you don't like The Crew 3? Like, what are people's problems with it? But I will say, just in my time, covering this and talking about it and social media posts and videos, I have never seen as vocal of a group of people that are wanting Assassin's Creed Shadows or an Assassin's Creed game in general, or Ubisoft to fail, more than I ever have in my time. And it's I can't hear and sit here and tell you it's surprising, because I don't think it is, but nothing that Assassin's Creed Shadows has shown leads me to believe that it is going to be some disastrous thing. That being said, I thought Star Wars Outlaws was a pretty disastrous, crap game. I didn't go back and play it after they updated it and fixed it, so I don't know if they've significantly improved on that game or not. But a crap game is not the worst possible thing for a company to put out, even if it's a long delayed crap game in an otherwise fairly beloved franchise. Like, the worst things have happened in the game industry, such as the abuse and mistreatment of Ubisoft's alleged employees. So I just want to know where people's heads are at with Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed in general. Because I often will talk about, hey, what the hell? Like, Ubisoft can't catch a break. Ubisoft slipped on another banana peel. But now I want to know where people's heads are at, because I know where my head's at. It's a confusing and frustrating place, but maybe for other people, they see it more black and white, more cut and dry. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are on Assassin's Creed Shadows. Are you excited? Do you care? Or do you even want to get into the Assassin's Creed franchise now, knowing what you know about Ubisoft and how fucked everything seems to be over there? Maybe you're a big Tom Clancy guy and you're just like, man, they should make a new Tom Clancy game, which I would say the time's probably now to make a new Tom Clancy game, but we'll see. Skate. Let's talk about the Skate game. Skate playtesting has been expanded to consoles. EA is now letting some console players sample Skate ahead of its early access launch. Following over 2 years of availability on PC, Skate playtests are also available now on Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PS5, and PS4. They posted this on Twitter. If you haven't been selected yet to participate in the playtest, hang tight. We will continue to invite new players who are registered as we go. Quote, we are still in the development stages of Skate and are bringing insiders like you into the game much sooner than is the norm in our industry. We're incredibly passionate about Skate, and we want to ensure we're building the best possible game, and that's why we want you playing and providing valued feedback ahead of a worldwide launch. Skate was revealed a long time ago. They showed it a long ass time ago. Skate was originally revealed in June of 2020 in a surprise announcement that broke EA's Twitter engagement records. The free-to-play game is the debut title from Full Circle, a Vancouver-based EA studio headed up by former Xbox Live general manager Daniel McCulloch. who spent 15 years with Microsoft's gaming business before departing in 2020. Set for release in early access this year, Skate will support cross-play and cross-progression on PC and consoles. A mobile version is also still in development and part of our future plans for the game, according to EA. So, I will say this. I have had access to the Skate playtest for some time. Not 2 years. It's less than a year. Less than a year that I've had access to it. Maybe 4 months? 3 months? 4 months-ish. That's all I can say. I can't say anything else. I'm not allowed to talk about the game. I'm not allowed to talk about what I think of it. I'm not allowed to talk about how it is, my opinions, anything else like that. All I will say is that I've had access to it for some time. And now, and I've been playing it on PC. And now console players will get the chance to do that as well if they would like. Awesome Games Done Quick. Awesome Games, we talk about this probably every year. Awesome Games Done Quick is the charity event where you can watch people speed run video games. Awesome Games Done Quick in 2025 raised more than $2.5 million for charity. There were more than 130 speedruns that took place at AGDQ 25 over the course of the week. That is Awesome Games Done Quick. So here's what you need to know. They held their event from January 5th to January 12th. More than 130 speedruns took place. By the time the event ended on Sunday, the total amount raised was $2,556,305, with the money going to Prevent Cancer Foundation. As noted on Reddit by user Thorbane, who keeps track of the stats for Games Done Quick, the organization has now raised more than $54 million for charity since it started 15 years ago, with more than 26 million of this going to Prevent Cancer Foundation. The latest marathon opening on Sunday with the run of the original Pikmin on Switch was completed in around an hour. Now, there were more than 130 games featured over the course of the week, including Portal 2, Astrobot, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, UFO 50, Metroid Prime, Horizon Forbidden West, Silent Hill 2, and Dead Rising Deluxe Remastered. The marathon ended early on Sunday morning with a 4-player race on the Super Nintendo Classic Super Metroid with a map randomizer, making it harder for competitors. As ever, the show also featured a number of offbeat challenges, including one player defeating Elden Ring bosses using a saxophone controller, and another playing Crazy Taxi while being accompanied by a live band. And I believe you can go check out the Awesome Games Done Quick, archives if you would like over on YouTube. Isn't that nice? Awesome Games Done Quick seems cool. I'm never around when they're. I usually work. I could probably have catched it if I wanted to. Going back to Ubisoft and Tencent, the family are considering moving Ubisoft. The family being the Guillemot family and Tencent are considering moving Ubisoft assets to a new venture. Ubisoft founding family may create a new entity and move some Ubisoft assets over to it. This is according to Bloomberg. So, citing people familiar with the situation, they claim that the Chinese tech firm and Ubisoft founders are thinking of creating a new entity, which will then move certain Ubisoft assets over in an attempt to boost Ubisoft's value. The Guillemot family owns 14% of Ubisoft's shares, while Tencent owns 9.99%. The report suggests that by creating a new venture and moving some of Ubisoft's IP and franchises over to that, it could allow Tencent to own a stake in the new entity and gain more control over those IPs. No final decision has been made, the report claims, and it's also not clear what would happen to the remaining Ubisoft IP that wouldn't be carried over to a theoretical new venture. Ubisoft share prices have seen general decline over the past few years following numerous underwhelming game releases. Yeah, I mean, who owns what, right? Who would own what? How would that work? What about the games that are still in development? What about the licensing deals that Ubisoft has? right? Because they have to, like, for example, they have to pay to license the cars, or somebody has to pay. Somebody has to do some sort of business deal. In order to get a Lamborghini in a video game, you have to get lawyers involved, right? I don't know who those lawyers work for or what the end result is, but you have to do some amount of business dealings in order to get a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something in a car in a video game. And there are plenty of those cars in stuff like the Crew. The fuck's that Crew game? The Crew 3. No, the Crew Motorsport. The Crew Wild Sport. I forget what the name of that Crew game is, but it doesn't matter because it's the Crew. Do I think that Tencent is going to be the company to save Ubisoft from itself? Probably not. But we'll see how it goes and if a new venture finally happens. I was not joking when I said we have a lot of news. We're like maybe halfway done the news, though some of these news stories are going to be quicker and quicker as we go along. Godfall studio Counterplay Games has reportedly disbanded. Now, if you don't know the game Godfall, it was a PS5 launch game that was not very good. It was not very good. Perhaps the most forgettable PlayStation 5 launch title to come out. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to type in PS5 launch games. And you tell me if you've heard of these games compared to Godfall. Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered, Demon Souls, and Astro Playroom. Those are the official PlayStation games that launched on PS5. I'm getting choked up talking about the PS5, which is stupid. Other launch games included Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Borderlands 3, Bugsnax, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which released on November 13th, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Destiny 2 Beyond Light, Dirt 5, Fortnite, Godfall, Just Dance 2021, Overcooked All You Can Eat, Maneater, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, which released on November 17th, NBA 2K21, No Man's Sky, Observer System Redo, Planet Coaster Console Edition, The Pathless, Warhammer Chaos Bane Slayer Edition, and Watch Dogs Legion. I think we can all agree that Godfall's got to be one of the most forgettable games on that third-party list, but nonetheless, this studio has reportedly closed and been disbanded. According to PlayStation Lifestyle, the claim has been made on LinkedIn by an employee at NetEase studio Jackalyptic Games, which was reportedly working with Counterplay until recently. Quote, over the past 6 months or so, our project at Jackalyptic has been supercharged by the world-class devs at Counterplay Games. It is impossible to overstate their impact from the very first day they put their shoulders to the wheel like it was their baby. Unfortunately, we're unable to continue our partnership into the new year, and CPG has disbanded. I want to share the profile of a few folks I worked closely with, strongly recommend, and hope to work with again in as soon as possible. I wish everybody involved over at Counterplay Games the best of luck, and I hope they all land on their feet. Godfall came out in 2020 for PC and PS5. It was originally a console launch exclusive. It then made its way to PS4 and Xbox consoles over the next couple of years. It is not a great game. Got a weird news story for you. We're going to go off the beaten path just a little bit. So, you know how games come out in early access with the plan for them to be updated over a period of time and then launch in what the developer considers to be the 1.0 fully realized or the launch realization of a game, right? Hey, you're going to get this game. It's not quite done. We're going to keep working on it. We're going to put out, and all the updates will be free. Maybe we'll charge more for new players as we, update the game, but we're going to keep working on it, and you can get in early now and support us and give us feedback and all that stuff. You're familiar with that concept, right? Well, a Steam early access game won't be updated for 3 years because its developer is going to jail. Fortune's Run won't be completed until its creator finishes a prison sentence. Fortune's Run was released on early access in September of 2023 and has since earned a very positive rating among its reviewers. The game was placed in early access because its developer, who goes by the name Dizzy, wanted to develop the game side by side with the community with the initial plan being to finish the game by 2026. That plan will no longer happen now because in a new update as spotted by PC Games N, Dizzy has informed players that they will be going to prison soon. Dizzy says, I've been sentenced to prison for the next 3 years. It's a long story, but I've lived a very different life before I was a game developer, and I wasn't living very well. My case is now about 5 years old. I have been going through the legal process the whole time I've been working on this. I have been finally found guilty and sentenced, and I'm going away next month. It's a shame because it's the consequences of my actions. I was a, quote, very violent person, and I hurt a lot of people in my life. Unfortunately, the sentence isn't going to help with that at all, but I guess we all know that. I guess saying that he's not going to be, he doesn't believe in the idea or doesn't agree with the idea of rehabilitation through the prison system. I'm not here to comment on the prison system or rehabilitation or nature versus nurture or guilty or any of that stuff. I'm not. This is not a fucking episode of Law and Order. I've never seen the show Oz. The point is, you know, Dizzy says they were a very violent person, but the sentence is going to help with that. Dizzy was developing the game alongside their wife, who was hospitalized last year due to illness. However, she won't be continuing the game's development in their absence. Once she recovered, she decided she was no longer interested in game development. She was in charge of QA and a few level segments, all of which have been abandoned, and I have been forced to get by on my own for the past while. It's been very, very difficult to do alone, but I actually managed by basically not sleeping to complete all the work in time. So that it could be released before I'm sent away. Since we decided to part ways, the development has been completely interrupted until I'm released. Dizzy claimed that the game sold well enough to potentially enable them to finish it once they're released from prison. I know many of you will be upset and disappointed, but please understand that there's absolutely nothing I can do. These wheels were in motion long before I started making this game, and it's just been slowly unraveling in my face the whole time. I want to underline that I am no longer in financial dire straits since our game actually sold okay, so I should be able to afford rent once I get out. So there's a chance that if you wait a few years, I'll be able to cap off the release. In fact, there's not very much content left to work on. I've been making stubs and prototypes of the missing levels in my spare time. Free my homie Dizzy. Dizzy is innocent, damn it. No, I don't know. That's you get a lot of weird news stories coming across your desk every now and then. This one is really weird. So, hey, if you bought Fortune's Run expecting that game to get finished anytime soon, that ain't happening. I don't know if, Steam is going to offer refunds for those that don't want to wait 3 years. I don't know how that stuff works. Steam is pretty, and Valve in general can be pretty good about really weird, fucked up scenarios surrounding early access games. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Dizzy will come out of this and make a new game or a better game or whatever, or not be a violent person. Siri, set a reminder to check in on Dizzy in 3 years to see if they've become a better person or not. Great. I set a reminder. Hey, if we're still doing this in 3 years, you'll know. This is a stupid news story. Lords of the Fallen publisher CI Games says it won't integrate social or political agencies into its games. The Lords of the Fallen publisher appears to credit DEI as the reason behind some high-profile failures. Now, DEI, if you don't know what DEI stands for, I'm going to pull up the exact wording here. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's the idea that, incorporate folks from other races, nationalities, religions, creeds, walks of life into your organization, whether it's work or nonprofit or whatever it is that you're working on, to have a better swath of a variety of different peoples, and their beliefs and things like that in order to create a very diverse and meaningful and relevant, piece of content, work, whatever it is that you're doing. However, Lords of the Fallen says that because of a forced sense of DEI, that's the reason their games suck. And I have some bad news for them. Lords of the Fallen sucks. It doesn't matter how many Asian people, doesn't matter how many brown people, black people, white people, gay people, trans people, bi people, people that, experience mental health issues, people that have different physical abilities. You could put every spectrum of the rainbow, the gender spectrum, everything and everything and anything in between. Guess what? Lords of the Fallen fucking sucks. So I really don't like this idea that, they're trying to blame some of the minority groups of the world, some of the underrepresented people of the world, and saying that is the reason why their game sucks. Lord of the Fallen sucks because it sucked. Even when it was an original game, it wasn't very good. It was just another one of those fucking, Souls-like, Dark Souls, Demon Souls-like games. And that new Lords of the Fallen is even worse than the original. So what fucking planet are they living on where they think that like diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that ruined their game? They were working with shit from the start when they said, hey, we're going to make a new Lords of the Fallen game, a game that nobody fucking cared for when it originally came out and seemed to care even less with the new version. But let's hear them out. Let's hear them out. Let's not be so biased. Let's hear them out with what they have to say. During an investor call, CI Games was questioned about the company's stance on DEI in gaming. In response, director Ryan Hill said that the company was focusing on excellent user experience with compelling thematics and characters created specifically for core and adjacent audiences. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. He said, while some video games have recently taken the opportunity to embed social or political agendas with their experiences, it's clear that many players do not appreciate this, and as a result, we have seen a number of high-profile releases underperforming commercially during the last year alone. Our games will always be developed to maximize player enjoyment and commercial success, and as such, we will not be integrating any social or political agencies into those experiences going forward, having observed the high risk this can present. Now, here's a better definition of DEI as provided by Video Games Chronicles, who say, they say, DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion organizational frameworks, is largely referred to in the process like recruitment that look to promote the fair treatment all people, particularly groups who have been historically underrepresented or subjected to discrimination. In recent years, the term has become a catch-all for the marginal section of the video game audience to rally behind when a game attempts to broach subjects that are perceived to be too political. The same audience has falsely attributed the scheme for a series of high-profile failures like Sony's Concord, while ignoring incredibly diverse successes such as Baldur's Gate 3. One high-profile game to receive an anti-DEI backlash was Assassin's Creed Shadows because of the inclusion of the Black Samurai Yasuke. So now you start to see where this is at, right? These are the folks that want to kiss the ring of conservative, right-wing, alt-right dipshits like Elon Musk and Donald Trump. This is where this all starts to make a lot more sense, is because they think that by including trans people and black people and anything and everything in between in a game like Concord is the reason why it failed. While Baldur's Gate 3 has one of the most diverse casts of characters in video games in general, made by a diverse cast of developers, a huge success, regarded as one of the greatest games ever made, one of the biggest games in the last 20 years, you name it, a huge success. But we forget about that. We forget about the story and the messaging in those games. right? Let me put it to you another way. Have these fucking incels, these goddamn dipshits, ever played a Call of Duty? Call of Duty games are pretty fucking political, dude. I don't care if you play as a trans black woman in that game or not. Those games are pretty fucking political no matter how you slice it. Okay? Like, games, when they try to be political, usually have some sort of leg to stand on. They usually have a point to make, a point to prove, and tend to lean more left because creative people tend to lean more left in politics. I know, GnittWitt, don't talk about politics, but tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm not saying that all conservative beliefs, conservative people are not creative. They're ignoramuses like that. I'm not saying any of that stuff. But when you point to a game and say it's too political, it's too woke, it's why is there a gay Asian person in this game? I want to play as a white guy, like whatever the fuck. You're just telling on yourself, and you're just trying to shift the blame because you don't want to admit that the thing that you were working on sucks. And guess what? Like, Concord's not going to be it wasn't the first game to feature a diverse cast of characters of different walks of life from people who felt represented by the game that they were making to fail. It's not going to be the last. It wasn't the first. It's not going to be the last. And Baldur's Gate is not going to be the last game to be successful in that. But to just like pin it on like these marginalized groups of people, it's such horseshit. It's such bullshit. Like I will not stand for it on this podcast. I will not. And you can say, oh no, don't get so political. Then they should shut their fucking mouths when it comes to playing the blame game. Like fuck CI games. Like whatever, I'm going to make damn sure that whatever game CI Games puts out, I avoid because I don't want their politics in my video games. I don't want their, social commentary, political agencies. I don't want their bullshit in my games. We'll see how they like it. Speaking of games that were failures, but not for any of the reasons that we just mentioned, Suicide Squad's final content update has been released. They have now also added a new ending to the game. Here's what they said. While Season 4, Episode 8 will mark the final battle against Brainiac, all online features will continue to be available, so you'll still be able to enjoy co-op with your friends, as well as previous seasonal episodic content. Players can choose to play the game via its recently released offline mode, which offers access to the main story campaign and all post-launch seasonal content without an internet connection. I'm just going to say this. I was going to say it, but I don't want to spoil it. They've put a final ending to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So if you remember, the whole plot is that, Superman and Batman and the Justice League were being controlled by Brainiac. They had been made evil by Brainiac's mind control. And that is why you had to kill the Justice League. There's a Batman boss fight or whatever. I don't know. I did not finish the game. And I don't think I'm going to go back and finish Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League for a variety of reasons. But as such, one of the reasons is that I learned what the true ending of that game is. And boy, is it dumb. Boy, did they come up with a really dumb ending to that game. And I imagine that the people who played through it wanting to see the ending and then got to the new ending that they added to the game are probably not stoked about it. But you can read about that ending if you want to. I will not spoil it here. Now, I want to return to a segment that we've done in the past called Shit I Should Have Talked About Last Week. There are 2 live action films based on PlayStation games that have been announced. Helldivers and Horizon Zero Dawn movies have been confirmed. Now, I first want to talk about Horizon Zero Dawn. I suspect that Horizon Zero Dawn is going to be a relatively faithful retelling of Aloy's origin stories. I also think that Horizon Zero Dawn has the better story between Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. I think that story in Forbidden West is pretty fucking dumb, even if I think the gameplay improvements, the graphics, and a lot of the accoutrement of Forbidden West is a hell of a lot better than Zero Dawn. Even though I think Zero Dawn is a great game itself, like it plays well, it holds up, all that stuff. Like I got no beef with Zero Dawn. But I suspect that kind of like the Last of Us TV show, this is going to be a faithful retelling of the story of that original game. Helldivers, on the other hand, I don't understand what they're trying to do, because Helldivers is just Starship Troopers. They're not ashamed of it. They're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to whatever. But Helldivers and Helldivers 2 is just Starship Troopers. So I'm not saying you can't make another Starship Troopers movie and not call it Starship Troopers, but they've made a lot of Starship Troopers movies even after people wanted to see any more Starship Troopers. So I'm very curious to see how this Helldivers movie shapes up, because that is perhaps the biggest unknown out of the two movies. Is how do they make it Starship Troopers without just calling it Starship Troopers? They're not going to be out anytime soon, I'm guessing, but we'll find out. Also, surprise, Sony Pictures, Columbia Pictures and PlayStation Productions are working on these games. Working on these movie games. Speaking of movie games, God, this movie looks bad. What a waste of time. I said this on Instagram threads, and I'm trying not to make content around this podcast focused on the shit that I said on the internet, but God, this looks bad. In my opinion, a lot of video game movies are a big waste of time. The Until Dawn movie seems like the biggest waste of time. And the reason for that is because Until Dawn, similar to Helldivers, wears its influence on its sleeve pretty hard, right? They are unapologetically going for something. I think the thing that they try to go for is pretty cool. And I think their execution of the thing they're trying to go for is pretty cool. Helldivers is a fantastic version of Starship Troopers if it was a video game, even though they already made a Starship Troopers game, but regardless. Until Dawn is a very good piece of interactive movie making experience, right? It is a movie that you play. So in the case of this Until Dawn movie, they have decided to not use any of the characters and not retell the story in Until Dawn. The only returning element that I can see is there's an hourglass in the trailer. Peter Stormare is going to be in the game, and they're calling the movie Until Dawn. And I have never been less, let me rephrase that. I have never been more annoyed at the existence of a video game movie than I am with Until Dawn. Until Dawn is already a movie that you play. What makes it cool, like if they just took all the cutscenes and all the gameplay and just whatever happens, whatever, here's the story, and you just watch somebody play Until Dawn, without any commentary, without anything, just here's the game, you're going to watch it instead of play it. It would be like a not great kind of whatever, it's all right, teen horror movie. When you make it an interactive experience, it is elevated far beyond the sum of its parts, right? It's like the interactive part is what makes Until Dawn great. Ripping out the interactive elements and then ripping out the other unique elements of that movie, or of that game, such as the characters in the story, which is not even that unique in the grand scheme of things, completely misses the point of what made Until Dawn great in the first place, which is why I think this Until Dawn movie looks like dog shit, looks like a waste of time. And I think even if you were a hardcore fan of Until Dawn who felt like they needed to see what it would be like if the snake ate its own tail and it turned it into a movie of a game that was basically a movie to begin with. You deserve better than what they're producing right now. This looks like crap, and maybe I'll be wrong when it comes out, but I have my doubts. We're going to take one more break, and then we're going to talk about the games that I've been playing. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the podcast. For the final time this episode, I continue to be GnittWitt, and we're going to talk about the games that I've been playing. I am still picking away at Final Fantasy 16. I don't have a ton of new stuff to say other than the game continues to do this thing where when you have a big boss battle, it kind of, cools off for a little bit, and then it immediately hits you with what feels like filler content, even though the game has already established this big story point and the next big action in the story. It does this all the time, and it's weird. And every time I have a big moment, I significantly cool from the game, and then I eventually come back to it, and I get past whatever filler they want me to do until I get back to the real meat of that game. And I should say I'm someone who's really been avoiding a lot of the side quests in the game. I'm not exploring a lot of the open world areas. I'm not doing a lot of the side boss battles or monster hunts or, helping people that have side quests. I'm just doing the main game, and it still kind of hits you with that. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but nonetheless, I'm going to chip away at it, and I will beat that game. But the thing that's actually been taking up most of my time is I went back to Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, which came out last year on PS5 and PC. I've been playing that game because it has trophy support, and I really like that game, and I wanted to get the trophies in that game. So I've been playing it a lot slower than I might have originally when that game came out. If I head on over to my Epic Game Store launcher, I can probably tell you the time I've spent with both of those games. I did complete Zero Dawn originally on PC. I played the original PC release of that game. So don't get me wrong. But if I go and I sort, when I played through Horizon Zero Dawn originally on PC, I put about 53 hours into that game. I am not done Horizon Zero Dawn, and I plan on doing everything that I can to get all of the trophies in the main version of that game that I can. And I'm about 20 hours in. So listen, when I say I like Horizon Zero Dawn, damn, man, I've put a lot of time into that game. I really enjoy it. Do I love what they do with the story after that game is over? No, but I enjoy fighting big robot animal things, and I like running around that open world. I really can't complain. So I've been continuing to really, really enjoy my time with Zero Dawn Remastered. I think it's a gorgeous looking game. I think it's a gorgeous looking version of a gorgeous looking game. I don't know if it looks quite as good as Forbidden West, but I think I might also enjoy some of the environmental design of some of the new locations in Zero Dawn, in Forbidden West compared to Zero Dawn. But I'm going to keep chipping away at Zero Dawn. I plan on getting all of the trophies. If I look over at my trophy counter now, I'm going to pull up the trophy counter on my phone here. Give me a moment. Buy me some time. I'm about 41% done. The main trophies in Horizon Zero Dawn. There's also trophies for New Game Plus, as well as for completing the Frozen Wilds quests and its feats, which I might do after I finish the main game. But really, I still am committed to trying to finish Final Fantasy 16 before Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth comes out. It was actually funny, during the break, I was watching a trailer for Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, the PC version, and I was just like, man, that game looks so fucking good. I cannot wait to play that. And then I remembered, oh shit, January 23rd, that's pretty damn close. I should probably get to finishing up Final Fantasy. If I can finish it in a week, awesome, but that's going to require some significant commitment on my part, which we shall see. But still chipping away at Final Fantasy 16, playing a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, and then I started to think about Helldivers 2, partially because of the new story. And I was like, you know what? I should give Helldivers 2 another chance. I have reinstalled Helldivers 2 on my PC. I've not gotten around to playing it much more of Helldivers 2. I know they've done a ton of work to that game, a lot of updates, all sorts of crazy shit is in Helldivers 2 now. I would like to get a chance to play it and give it another shot. I just haven't done so yet. And that's really all there is for gaming for this week. I mean, next week, on next Thursday, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will be out. So that gives me about a week to play through 16 and then maybe start up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We'll see how that goes. And then potentially tomorrow, everything could change with the announcement of the Switch 2. But we'll find out, and we'll have more to talk about next week. I have been GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree. That's linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all of that stuff in one convenient location, though I'm not on Twitter anymore. I don't know why I said that. That is going to do it for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. Enjoy all that gaming brings to you, and we'll see you next week. Take it easy.